This is live from New Delhi. You're watching DT India News Hour. DT India, India's voice to the world. I'm Sakal Bhatt, and coming up in the next hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates ISRO on the historic 100th launch, calls it incredible milestone. Rwandan-backed M23 rebel group seizes control of besieged city of Goma in Congo. Congolese president says will not take part in peace talks. Calm descends on financial markets after AI upheaval trigger tech sell-off. Tech reboot lifts European stocks to record high. And beating retreat ceremony marks culmination of 76 Republic Day celebrations at India's historic Vijay Chowk in New Delhi. The Indian Space Research Organisation has achieved a historic milestone with the successful launch of its 100th mission from Sriharikota, carrying the NVS-02 satellite into orbit. ISRO's 100th launch is not just a numerical milestone, but a symbol of India's accelerated progress in space exploration. And with new infrastructure, increased private participation and record-breaking investments, India is poised for even greater achievements in the years to come. Here's a report.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
The Indian Space Research Organisation achieved a remarkable milestone on Wednesday with the successful launch of its 100th mission from Sriharikota. The GSLV F-15 rocket carrying the NVS-02 satellite lifted off from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre in the South Indian state of Andhra Pradesh.
I am extremely happy to announce from the spaceport of ISRO that the first launch of this year, 2025, has been successfully accomplished.
GSLV F-15 very successfully executed its mission by placing the NVS-02 satellite into its precise geostationary transfer orbit. We mark a historic milestone, the 100th mission from Sriharikota, the spaceport of India.
The NVS-02 satellite is a navigation satellite equipped with payloads in L1, L5 and S bands, as well as a ranging payload in C band. With a lift-off mass of 2,250 kilograms and power handling capability of approximately 3 kilowatts, NVS-02 is designed to enhance India's indigenous navigation with Indian Constellation or NAVIC system.
Coming to NVS-02, it is the second satellite in the second generation of the navigation satellite series, NVS series, for the NAVIC constellation. Similar to its predecessor NVS-01, it has an indigenous atomic clock, which will showcase our capability in this very, very critical technology. Also, it has L1 band navigation signal, along with the heritage L5 and S signals. It will expand and widen our navigation services. The main mission objective of NVS-02 is to provide position, navigation and timing services for the Indian mainland and 1,500 kilometers surrounding it.
The NAVIC system is India's answer to global navigation satellite systems. It provides crucial position, velocity and timing services. ISRO's 100th launch from Sriharikota marks a significant achievement for the space agency. Since its first launch in 1979, ISRO has come a long way, achieving numerous historic milestones.
So this launch, this 100th launch by GSLV placing NVS-02 is going to significantly enhance the PNT services in the country and is going to contribute a lot to the science and technology. Again, it is a significant milestone for us, demonstrating our commitment for self-reliance and indigenous development.
The Indian Space Research Organisation has demonstrated its capabilities in launching satellites, spacecraft and other payloads into the orbit, and has established itself as a major player in the global space community. With inputs from Anabarsan Elango, Antra Sinha for DD India.
NVS-02 mission accomplished.
And Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has congratulated the Indian Space Research Organization on its historic 100th launch, describing it as an incredible milestone that showcases the vision, the dedication and the commitment of India's scientists and engineers. Prime Minister posted on platform X stating congratulations to ISRO on the historic 100th launch. This incredible milestone illustrates the vision, dedication and commitment of our scientists and engineers. With the private sector joining hands, India's space journey will continue to attain new heights. Unquote. The humanitarian situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo continues to worsen as fierce fighting rages in the eastern part of the country. Rwanda-backed M23 rebels have taken control of Goma and are advancing towards Bukavu, while over 500,000 people have been displaced this month alone. We have more in this report.
The humanitarian situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo continues to deteriorate as fierce fighting rages in the eastern part of the country between rebels and the government forces. The conflict has displaced more than 500,000 people so far in January.
Continuera-t-il d'abuser votre respect?
The humanitarian situation continues to deteriorate, with more than 500,000 new internally displaced people in the North and South Kivu provinces in January alone.
Rwanda-backed M23 rebels took control of most of the besieged DRC city of Goma on Wednesday, advancing south from the town of Minova towards South Kivu's capital of Bukavu. The United Nations said that the level of civilian suffering in and around Goma is truly unimaginable.
Resuming the Luanda process is of the utmost urgency to ensure a path towards de-escalation and to avert the looming threat of a third Congo war. We remind all parties of their obligation to uphold international humanitarian law and stress that attacks on United Nations peacekeepers may constitute war crimes. The degree of suffering that the population in Goma and its environments is enduring is truly unimaginable.
Amid rising tensions, DR Congo President Felix Tshisekedi has halted a crisis meeting with his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame, which was scheduled for Wednesday. Congo has accused Rwanda of declaring war by sending troops across the border to support the rebels. As Rwandan-backed M23 rebels solidified control over eastern Congo's largest city, hundreds of foreign nationals, including World Bank staff, crossed into Rwanda from Goma on Wednesday. Residents reported sporadic gunfire in outlying districts. Hundreds of foreign military contractors also crossed into Rwanda from Goma after surrendering to the United Nations. The intense fighting has heightened a humanitarian crisis in a turbulent region, rich in minerals and plagued for decades by armed groups, backed by regional rivals in the aftermath of the 1994 Rwandan genocide. Rabindra Chauhan's report, DD India.
Meanwhile, the Economic Community of West Africa states have officially confirmed the exit of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger from the bloc on Wednesday following their withdrawal last year. And this comes after ECOWAS called for the restoration of democratic rule in Niger post-2023 coup. The three nations instead formed the alliance of Sahel states and introduced their own biometric passports. Despite their departure, the ECOWAS has agreed to continue diplomatic and trade cooperation with them, recognizing their national passports under existing agreements.
As you all know, today, 29 January 2025, Burkina Faso, the Republic of Mali, the Republic of Niger have formally ceased to be members of the Economic Community of West African States. This followed the notification the Commission received from the three countries in January 2024 regarding their decision and intention to withdraw from the community.
US President Donald Trump has taken more than 300 executive actions, including a bold move to offer federal employees up to 8 months' salary to resign. Meanwhile, a federal judge has temporarily blocked Trump's freeze on federal aid, while White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has clarified that individual assistance will continue. Saeed Afzarul Hassan puts the recent executive orders by Donald Trump into perspective.
US President Donald Trump has taken more than 300 executive actions since his inaugurations last week, continuing to shake up political circles. In a bold move to overhaul the federal workforce, Trump announced a voluntary resignation program offering federal employees up to 8 months of salary as an incentive to leave their jobs by February 6. This program aims to significantly reduce the size of US government. Employees who choose to participate will remain on the payroll until September 30 without needing to work in person and may have reduced duties during this time. In another development, a federal judge temporarily blocked President Donald Trump's attempt to freeze hundreds of billions of dollars in federal aid. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt clarified the pause of funding is only temporary.
It's an honor to be here with all. Blanket pause on federal assistance and grant programs from the Trump administration. Individual assistance, that includes, I'm not naming everything that's included, but just to give you a few examples, Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, food stamps, welfare benefits, assistance that is going directly to individuals will not be impacted by this pause. And I want to make that very clear to any Americans who are watching at home who may be a little bit confused about some of the media reporting. This administration, if you are receiving individual assistance from the federal government, you will still continue to receive that.
These actions have faced criticism from federal employees' unions and lawmakers. The American Federation of Government Employees has raised concerns that the initiative pressures employees seen as disloyal to resign. Federal spending, including over $3 trillion in financial assistance such as grants and loans, was approved by the Congress for fiscal year 2024. President Donald Trump also signed an executive order restricting gender transition procedure for people under the age of 19. The order follows his inaugural speech where he has stated that this government would only recognize two genders, male and female. The new policy prohibits the funding, promotion and support of gender transition procedures for children. Syed Afzarul Hassan for DD India.
And still to come on DD India NewsHour. Coming up next on the other side of a short breather, we'll talk about how the thousands of taxi drivers are protesting against insurance prices in Spain. Rear section of a passenger aircraft catches fire at an airport in South Korea. 176 people evacuated. UK government announces support for plans to build a third runway at London's Heathrow Airport.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Sakal Bhatt. Now let's just shift focus to the situation on ground in Bangladesh. Bangladesh's ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina-led Awami League has again swung into action. The party has called for a series of strikes and blockades program in February, demanding the resignation of Muhammad Yunus-led interim government for its, and I quote, oppression of the minority Hindu community in the country. Meanwhile, Human Rights Watch, or HRW, has expressed concern over the worsening situation in Bangladesh and called for long-term systemic reforms. Here's more.
The political scenario of Bangladesh appears to be on the cusp of a major change. Ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's Awami League has announced a series of protests demanding resignation of Professor Muhammad Yunus-led interim government for its oppression of the minority Hindu community in Bangladesh. According to a post on social media platform X from Awami League's verified account, a series of protest programs have been planned in February. The party will begin distributing leaflets from 1st to 5th February, followed by protest rallies on 6th and 10th of February and nationwide blockade on 16th February, along with a dawn to dusk strict strike will occur on February 18th. The party also warned that if authorities attempt to obstruct these demonstrations, tougher programs will be announced. In a press statement, the party said, "At the call of the greatest Bengali of all time, daughter of the father of the nation, the Honourable Prime Minister and the President of Bangladesh Awami League, our leader Sheikh Hasina, let us launch an unrelenting mass movement to restore democracy and rebuild the aspirations of the liberation war." The Awami League announced that it will protest against a number of burning issues, which include the unprecedented breakdown of law and order and security situation in the country, the killings, disappearances and custodial deaths of Awami League leaders, activists and supporters, the runaway prices of essentials, attacks on religious minorities and indigenous people, attacks on Sufis, balls, artists, literateurs, lawyers, journalists and others, and withdrawing of corruption and tax evasion cases against Dr. Yunus. The party said, through protest programs, it will demand the release of all political prisoners, the withdrawal of all false cases, proper investigation and trial of all killings including police and Ansar members, and the resignation of unelected, unconstitutional and illegal government headed by Dr. Yunus. This comes as first major demonstration by the Awami League, most of whose leaders have either been arrested or underground since the fall of Sheikh Hasina-led government on August 5th last year. Meanwhile, Human Rights Watch in a report said recent cases of arbitrary arrest, action against journalists and violence in Bangladesh underscore the need for long-term systemic reforms. HRW report further says the interim government should bring a consensus resolution at the Human Rights Council session in March to ensure continued UN monitoring and reporting to support the reform process. With bureau inputs from Nabal Sen Parmar, Raghav Kumar Jha reports for DD India.
In other news, Britain's Labour government is planning to support the construction of a third runway at London's Heathrow Airport, a move aimed at boosting economic growth and job creation. Finance Minister Rachel Reeves made the announcement on Wednesday, stating that past delays have stood in the way of opening new export markets for Britain.
Has already given its support to expansion at city airports and at Stansted. And there are two live decisions on Luton and Gatwick which will be made by the Transport Secretary shortly. But as our only hub airport, Heathrow is in a unique position, and we cannot duck the decision any longer. I have always been clear that a third runway at Heathrow would unlock further growth, boost investment, increase exports, and make the UK more open and more connected.
Traffic came to a standstill across Spain on Wednesday as thousands of taxi drivers staged massive protests against soaring insurance premiums. In Madrid, long lines of white taxis took over Castellana Avenue, forcing diversions and bringing the city to a crawl. Taxi drivers say their insurance costs have surged up to 300% over the past 3 years, making it increasingly difficult to sustain their livelihoods.
I have come here because of the abuse of insurance policies. Suddenly, the price of insurance went up by 300 or 200% more. Concretely, I have got a hike of 30%, but we have colleagues that are paying up to 6,000, 7,000 euros.
In terms of everything that has been happening in the taxi sector lately and the mandatory issue, we have the public liability insurance which all public services have to pay, and the taxi sector is also paying for the consequences of the high accident rate of other kinds of vehicles such as the ride-sharing companies.
In South Korea, after the Jeju aircraft crash just a month ago, investigations are underway to determine the cause of the fire which engulfed a plane in Busan city. The South Korean carrier Air Busan flight caught fire on Tuesday at Gimhae International Airport while preparing to depart to Hong Kong. All 169 passengers and 7 crew members were evacuated, with 7 having minor injuries. The fire service was alerted soon after the fire began inside the plane. Israeli government spokesman David Mencer says that the UN aid agency for Palestinian refugees, known as UNRWA, is riddled with Hamas operatives as Israel prepares to cut its ties with the agency on Thursday.
Then let me say this straight. UNRWA equals Hamas. Israel has made public, irrefutable evidence. UNRWA is riddled with Hamas operatives.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Tuesday that his country could hold peace talks with Ukraine, but ruled out speaking directly with President Volodymyr Zelensky, whom he called illegitimate. Russia has long alleged that Zelensky no longer has legal authority, as his term in office ran out in May 2024 and no presidential elections have been since held. In response, the Ukrainian leader or Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky says that Vladimir Putin was afraid of negotiations on ending the war. Meanwhile, Kremlin on Friday said that Russian president is ready to hold a phone call with US President Donald Trump. Earlier on Thursday, Trump said that he wanted to meet Putin as soon as possible to secure an end to the war with Ukraine and expressed his desire to work towards cutting nuclear arms. Back home in India, Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will be presenting the Union Budget 2025 in Indian Parliament on 1st of February 2025. Now let's take a look at the budget expectations from various sectors as a build-up to the budget day. Tripura, which is a state in northeast part of India, possesses tremendous potential from the growth point of view. And with the Union Budget 2025 to be presented on 1st of February, the state expects for a slew of measures to accelerate the growth engine of this diminutive state.
The central government has in recent years opened up many avenues for economic development of rural people, especially women and youth in the state of Tripura. The government has been consistently providing financial support to the farmers through schemes like Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samriddhi Yojana. In order to further boost the state's economy, economists and civil society feel that Tripura has a huge potential to explore tourism economy, which needs more focus to excel. Tripura, along with the entire northeast, can be an educational hub.
Particularly for Tripura, this year budget attains a special importance owing to the developments in Bangladesh. The local economy is linked in a big way. The emerged scenario has had its effect in the domestic market, in the hospitality sector. A lot of people used to use Tripura as a transit. That has come down. Trade has decreased. So obviously, we need something which is going to revive the economy.
For decades, the state's capital, Agartala, has been used as a transit point by Bangladeshi people who visit India for medical tourism and business purposes. Experts view the very trade relation need to be strengthened and expanded.
If the border remain insecure, then so many illegal activities like smuggling of drugs and cross-border criminal activities, infiltration, this must be stopped because these otherwise affecting our Indian societies.
With the government's Act East policy, Tripura and the entire northeast is heading on the path of development. However, the prevailing instability in the neighbouring country has led to drastically downsize the passenger movement and also trade volume. In order to overcome the losses and give the much needed economic fillip, people in Tripura are expecting for SOPs for the state in the Union Budget 2025.
The uncertainties in the neighbouring Bangladesh has become a cause of concern for the people of Tripura. Apart from reduced passenger movement, the trade and commerce activities between the two countries have been affected to some extent. In order to overcome the losses and provide a much needed fillip to the state's economy, people of Tripura are expecting for SOPs in the Union Budget 2025 from Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. With camera person Shubhrato Shah, this is Kunal Shinde reporting for DD India from Agartala.
And as India aims to become a global tourism powerhouse, expectations are high for the Union Budget to provide a significant boost to the sector. Young entrepreneurs in the travel business are looking for policy support, financial incentives and infrastructure upgrades to fuel the growth of tourism. DD India's Kriti Vadera reports on how the upcoming budget could shape India's tourism industry.
India's tourism sector is witnessing an unprecedented rise, fueled by domestic travelers and growing global interest, from adventure tourism in the Himalayas to spiritual circuits in Varanasi and Ayodhya. The industry is evolving rapidly. Entrepreneurs are now looking at the Union Budget to catalyze this momentum with policy reforms and financial support.
To increase the domestic travel, government should increase more and more adventure parks so that more family can able to travel. And second, I would say after post-COVID, we have seen that flight fares are going much higher. So it's not in the reach of normal people, layman people, I mean to say. So I think government must have a monitoring authority who can control these flight fares. That they should not go much high, so that in case of any medical emergency or if anybody want to travel, they can think of that they can also travel by air.
Technology is reshaping travel experiences. Entrepreneurs want government support for digital payment systems and smart travel solutions to enhance ease of booking and accessibility.
Government should also focus on the tax rebate for travel agents, tourism sector, for all the travel fraternity.
Connectivity remains key to growth. With ambitious projects like new expressways, regional airports, and high-speed rail corridors, the industry seeks increased budget allocations to improve last-mile connectivity and accessibility to offbeat locations. With the tourism sector playing a crucial role for India's economic growth, young entrepreneurs are optimistic that the Union Budget 2025 will bring the right policy push. Will it deliver to their expectations? Now all eyes remain to the Finance Minister's announcement. With camera person Anand Kumar, I am Kriti Vadera reporting from New Delhi for DD India.
In other news, India's Union Cabinet has approved National Critical Mineral Mission to build a resilient value chain for critical mineral resource vital to green technologies, with an outlay of Rs 34,300 crore over 7 years. The National Critical Mineral Mission will encompass all stages of the value chain, including mineral exploration, mining, beneficiation, processing and recovery from end-of-life products.
नेशनल क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स मिशन इसको आज अप्रूवल दिया है। 16,300 करोड़ रुपए का ये मिशन है। 16,300 करोड़ रुपए का मिशन है और 6 वर्षों तक ये मिशन का इनिशियल फेज रहेगा। 24 क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स को आइडेंटिफाई किया गया है। ये नेशनल क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स मिशन से देश में एक बहुत बड़ी जो इंपोर्ट डिपेंडेंस थी वो खत्म होगी। आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनने में बहुत बड़ा ये स्टेप है और साथ ही साथ जो हमारी नेशनल सिक्योरिटी है, एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन है, उसको ये मिशन सिक्योर करेगा।
Nepal observed Martyrs' Day on Wednesday. To mark the occasion, several programs were organized to pay rich tributes. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli visited the Martyrs Memorial near Sundhara and paid homage. Still to come on DD India NewsHour, coming up next. As unrest in Bangladesh continues, Awami League of ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina announces nationwide stir against Yunus's government. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Sakal Button. Going back to a top story on the unrest in Bangladesh continues, and Awami League has announced nationwide campaign against the current interim government. We are very glad to be joined by Suhas Chakma, Director Risk and Rights and Risk Analysis Group RRAG from National Capital New Delhi, and also Shubhimal Bhattacharjee, columnist, joining us from Guwahati, Northeast. I'm going to start with Suhas Chakmaji. So Chakmaji, we know that the anti-Yunus campaign, as per the Awami League and the timetable that they have released, will kickstart on 1st of February, culminating in blockades and bands and hartals on 16th and 18th February. This also follows an announcement that the Awami League will not be allowed to contest any polls in near future. You see this situation escalating and a big face-off between Awami League and Yunus's government. What do you think has triggered this positioning or posturing by Awami League, and what, according to you, could be its repercussions, considering the kind of headlines Bangladesh has been making, whether it is about the unrest on ground or human rights violations or press gag, etc.?
Well, I think it is expected simply because of the fact that the mandate of an interim government is to hold elections, and they have been going too far to carry out reforms which they cannot give effects to, because at the end of the day there is no parliament to give sanctions to the reforms. So this election should have been organized within 6 months' time, which is basically by 8th of February this year. He had not conducted these elections. So it's not only the Awami League, it's actually also the BNP, which has already announced the agitation programs. In fact, Salahuddin today has already announced the programs of the BNP. They have not given the schedule. So it's clear that people in Bangladesh want free and fair elections. And of course, you have Yunus trying to form some kind of a king's party with the help of the students. And he has been basically trying to establish, and so far he has been able to establish, mob rule in the country with the help of the anti-discrimination students movement. So anybody he doesn't like, he will have the students to go and campaign against them, and that's the way he got all the about 21 judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court removed. And at any given point of time, you would see that the students belonging to this anti-discrimination student movement headed by this Hassan Abdullah, they are going and attacking the press, asking the media houses to sack certain journalists. So basically they have created a lawless situation where things which cannot be done legally by the Yunus government are being done illegally through the anti-discrimination students movement. So it's not only Awami League, all other political parties are also joining. So once Awami League and the BNP come and launch programs which will coincide together at this point of time as per the timeline given, then of course this government has to go.
But can this government go? Shubhimal, over to you. Now, Awami League has labelled Yunus's government, and I quote, sponsors of radical militancy, unquote. Now, do you see here the opposition, the so-called opposition bloc, can consolidate their position against the interim government led by Yunus? Because they've already, they're beyond the election deadline. They don't seem to be in mood to holding elections prima facie. So you think opposition can make some sort of dent as far as interim government is concerned?
I think, Sakal, as much as the interim government tries to drag its feet and try to, postpone the elections and keep a popular government away from office, it always risks itself being caught in the, Commonwealth's IS and, a government trying to not do what it promised. What was this promise? They came saying that, the Awami League had spoilt everything. Sheikh Hasina was a dictator and, they are going to reform the country, hold elections soon. But if you see the troubles that the people are witnessing, whether it is on the economic front, whether the minorities, the way they have been attacked and all, whether Mr. Yunus himself is seen to be a weakling in front of, many of the groups of students that are there. So I think a kind of situation has emerged where the opposition parties and, in whichever bloc they are, whether it is the Awami League or even the BNP, they are seeing that space to be opposing the Yunus-led government and all. So there are people who are now feeling the pain of, things not going in the right direction as was promised. So I think there is a space and they are trying to gather that, and Awami League now calling for such kind of direct protest against a situation, after August 5th, where they were almost seen to be gone. I don't think, that situation is anymore there now. A lot of people think that whatever be it, they had a place and they should have a role.
No, but there are also reports that Awami League is a divided house in itself. So Hasji, what's your reading into that? The questions being asked, or perhaps is this thing that can they really bounce back? Well, not to the power, because if you look at the interim government, they've declared that it would not allow Awami League to proceed with the rally or even for contesting in elections, or maybe they are going to declare them politically defunct. But then do you think Awami League has some sort of a roadmap to come back into the game?
I definitely think there is the space available. Was it meant for me or for Suhas?
You both can address that, but Suhasji, you first.
Okay, let's Suhas.
Yes, good to see Subimal. What I am saying is that the Awami League has a space, and the people who announced that Awami League cannot participate in the elections are basically this mob which belong to the anti-discrimination students movement. The Election Commission had made it very clear that Awami League cannot participate in the elections only if there is a law. There is no law which can bar a political party at this point of time to participate in the elections. So they will participate. So there is no way. In fact, BNC
So are you saying that this ban on, I'm sorry, I'm just to understand, because this is a very pertinent point, Suhas, you have raised that this so-called ban on Awami League to contest in polls doesn't hold any ground. It's null and void.
No, it is some students talking, I'm sorry to say, talking rubbish. They will not allow the Awami League to contest the elections because Awami League is not a banned political party. They have banned Chhatra League, which is the student wing, but there is a difference between the Chhatra League and the Awami League. So Awami League shall contest the election. They may not win the elections, but you never know. I think what we have to understand is that the Yunus is not going to give up power. Those who are in power at this point of time in the caretaker government, they are not willing to give up power. They want to form their own political party with the help of the Jamaat-e-Islami, which has never won more than 6 to 8% of the votes. So I think Awami League would contest, and by the time elections are held, people would be, asking the questions what these people who wanted to reform in the country or bring reforms in the country have done. Nothing. Because, see, the origin of the movement, the students' movement, was the reform of the quota. So once the government was overthrown, they have assumed the powers. And everybody knows there are so many people in the caretaker government. They themselves are transferring their funds to foreign countries, including Dubai, and they themselves shall be prosecuted very soon.
Right.
Very soon they will face prosecution.
Now, reportedly, Shubhimal, adding to that, key advisor to the interim government has already announced that the Awami League would be excluded from contesting elections in the future. That's why I asked it rejoined to Suhas sir. So what happens now if this whole just a blanket statement that you're not allowed or you will not be allowed to contest in polls? This statement can be challenged legally or otherwise by Awami League, and they have it is within their jurisdiction and rights to contest if the polls take place or whenever the polls take place.
Oh, definitely. Not only legally they contest the case, but there is still a good section of the liberal population in Bangladesh which would still go by the Awami League. Remember, as and I mentioned earlier that this caretaker government was seen to be bringing in reform. They have brought in nothing, whereas at the same time, Awami League's economic policies, well, it might have thrown a lot of people who have misused with the money and everything, but a larger section of the Bangladeshi people benefited. Bangladesh went up in its economic rankings and in terms of doing business, in terms of doing the exports, and then a kind of a situation now has been created that a lot of people are feeling the pinch. So definitely they have the support. The question is, where does this liberal vote go? And if at all in any way, Awami League can be banned from the public, space for contextual election. I don't think that, that would lead to a very easy way to conduct the election. And there might be even violence, which used to be a very common feature in Bangladesh. Now that their different leaders are in a very disarrayed situation, they might not be organizationally very strong, but I think that the caretaker government itself is creating the space for Awami League to come back and, be there in the political space of Bangladesh and not necessarily become extinct.
Oh, that's interesting. Sukma ji, do you agree with that point?
Oh, absolutely. I think I completely agree with it. There is no way. I mean, I think still 30 to 35% of the population will be voting for Awami League. The BNP would be having equal number of, votes. See, at the end of the day, Awami League, you like or dislike, it's the political party which had, brought liberation in the country.
With the legacy.
You are not going to, wipe out the political party which was in power for the last 15 years. Possibly they are the people who have more support base than anybody else. We have to remember that, the people who are in power today, they do not have any political support base. None of the people who are serving in the advisory committee have, has the political support base. They are either from the NGO sector or some retired army general who had some thinking and got the opportunity. So they are there because of that particular situation which had arisen. And instead of performing their own responsibilities, they now want to form a political party and have some kind of a -2 solution, which I had said months back that the BNP and Awami League will come together in the streets. These people will have to flee. In the last, rally where the students wanted to bring about 15 to 20 lakhs people for adoption of the July declaration, we are able to bring only 15 to 20,000 people. So people have already lost their hopes with this revolution or whatever, they are thinking about. And today they can't, bring 20,000 to, 30,000 people, not more than that. That too also with the help of the Jamaat-e-Islami. So the students, coordinators, they have lost all the credibility because the moment you have joined the government, two of their coordinators have joined the government, you are no longer impartial and you have lost the whatever credibility you had. So people do not have any credibility, especially the students. In 6 months' time, it will be very difficult for them to justify their own presence in the movement or in the government.
So that kind of puts some sort of a pressure on UNIS's government, Suhas Chakmaji, because Human Rights Watch have also come up with some, observations about whatever is happening right under the nose of UNIS's government, whether it is gag on press or so-called human rights violations. We can run those graphics again as far as Human Rights Watch group has talked about the need of the hour is inducing the reforms. But is that happening? Rights respecting future.
No, I think human rights was completely off the mark for only one reason. Okay. You have an interim government. An interim government cannot undertake any reforms, because if you want to bring reforms, if you want to give legal effects, you have to either pass a law or bring through an ordinance. And that's not the mandate which an interim government has. So that's something to be done by an elected government, whoever wins the elections. So they should have pressed for the elections. And at this point of time, what we see is Yunus has completely lost control over this situation. There is a mob rule in the country, and he himself is allowing it because he has given indemnity to the people who have killed police officers. In one side, you have police officers and other paramilitary forces violating human rights during July uprising. So that's one part of the story. The other part of the story is that lots of security forces, as for the official estimates 44, but unofficially it's about 100 policemen were killed. So when it comes to prosecution of those who have killed these policemen, government has given complete indemnities. You cannot register the FIR, you cannot arrest them. So what kind of justice you are talking about?
Right.
You have given immunity. Everybody is equal before the law. Whoever commits a crime from both sides is to be treated, as an accused and be tried and be punished if found guilty. And that process has completely stopped. So I think the recommendations of the Human Rights Watch, do not make any sense, because the government is not authorized to take any measures. It's as simple as that.
Okay, Shubhamal, quick one. I need to wrap it up. Your point.
No, I think the faith on Professor Yunus that was there at the beginning, when the students also thought that he could be a great face. Now that is waning,
dwindling. He's on a precarious foot. Yeah.
And as Suhasji just mentioned about indemnifying people who killed police officers, I don't think Bangladesh people accepted the same reason for which they went against the Sheikh Hasina government. Now they are seeing the same thing being repeated here. So time is a great healer, I say, but here in this case, even before healing, time itself is trying to bring back the same people who were demonized.
Okay. So, yes, please finish your point. Yes.
Yeah, so I think, it's time for, the Yunus government to really call for elections early, because the more time they remain, they not only damage the things within the country, but also in all the relations in the neighborhood and all. Already there are security concerns in many parts of India now.
It's it's public standing domestically and internationally as well. That's what you're trying to say. On that note, thank you very much, gentlemen. Suhas Shakmaji, it's always a pleasure talking to you, and Shubhamal, you too. Thank you, both of you, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now let's move on to some other news and updates. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is on a visit to UAE, met with Crown Prince of Dubai, Hamdan bin Mohammed, on Wednesday. In a post on platform X, Dr. Jaishankar said, and I quote, "Warm conversation on our deep bonds of friendship and taking them forward for the good of our people," unquote. After a turbulent start to the week, global markets have appeared steady on Wednesday as investors shifted focus to the US Federal Reserve first interest rate meeting of the year. In Europe, stocks hit a record high, driven by strong earnings from Dutch chip equipment maker ASML, which saw its share surge by 8%. The market rebound also comes after Monday's massive sell-off, when the rise of China's lower-cost AI model DeepSeek triggered a global tech rout, wiping over $500 billion from Nvidia's market value alone. A grand spectacle of music, tradition and patriotism unfolded in national capital New Delhi this evening as India marked the beating retreat ceremony, bringing the curtains down to the 76th Republic Day celebration. Now, this event, deeply rooted in military tradition, featured stirring performances by the Indian Army, Navy and Air Force, and also CAPF bands. Here's a wrap of the evening highlights.
As the sun set over Raisina Hills, the historic Vijay Chowk in India's capital transformed into a stage of military precision and musical excellence. Beating retreat ceremony, a time-honored tradition dating back centuries, symbolized the formal conclusion of Republic Day celebrations. It is held on the evening of January 29th, 3 days after Republic Day at Vijay Chowk, New Delhi. The evening began with the arrival of the President of India, Draupadi Murmu. She was greeted by a majestic fanfare. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and Information Broadcasting Minister Ashwini Vaishnav were also in attendance. The ceremony features a musical performance by the bands of Indian Army, Navy, Air Force, Delhi Police and Central Armed Police Force. The ceremony is presided over by the President of India, who is the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces. The custom, which originated from battlefield practices where soldiers would sheathe their arms and withdraw at sunset, now serves as a moment of pride and nostalgia. The performances showcase the brilliance of India's armed forces bands, each adding its own rhythmic flair to the event. The Pipes and Drums Band performed soul-stirring compositions. In a breathtaking finale, the massed bands came together for a powerful rendition of the timeless classic, "Ae Mere Watan Ke Logo," paying tributes to the bravery and sacrifices of India's soldiers. This was followed by the traditional drummer's call, leading up to the solemn moment of retreat by the buglers, signalling the official close of the Republic Day festivities. As the last notes echoed through the air, Rashtrapati Bhavan and surrounding buildings lit up in a dazzling display of lights, creating a mesmerizing backdrop. The ceremony concluded with the stirring march tune "Sare Jahan Se Acha," leaving the audience filled with pride and patriotism. With its perfect blend of tradition, discipline and music, the beating retreat ceremony once again reminded the nation of its rich military heritage and unwavering patriotism. The beating retreat ceremony in India was first held in 1950s during the state visit of Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip. Since then, the ceremony has become an annual event to pay tributes to the valor and sacrifice of Indian armed forces. With Bureau Inputs, Vishal Baristo's report for DD India.
India's iconic Vijay Chowk coming alive with beating retreat ceremony, which showcases the grandeur of India's military traditions. Let's move on and talk about traditions and India's civilization also. Beijing witnessed a historic cultural moment with the premieres of Adi Kavya, a dance drama adaptation of the Indian epic Ramayana, performed at the Shunyi Grand Theatre. The production was China's first large-scale staging of the Ramayana, directed by Bharatanatyam exponent Jin Shenshen.
One of India's most revered epics has captivated audiences for centuries, transcending borders and cultures. Now, for the first time, this timeless tale has been brought to life on a grand scale in Beijing, marking a significant milestone in cultural diplomacy. At the prestigious Shunyi Grand Theatre, the Indian epic unfolded through the mesmerizing art of Bharatanatyam in a breathtaking dance drama titled Adi Kavya. Seamlessly blending storytelling, classical dance and theatre, The production showcased the richness of India's artistic traditions to Chinese audiences. This landmark event underscores the deep cultural connections between the two civilizations. Presented in Mandarin with English subtitles for international guests, the performance was inspired by the 1980s Chinese translation of the Ramayana by late Indologist Professor Shi Shanlin. Indian Ambassador Pradeep Kumar Rawat, who graced the occasion, highlighted the epic's enduring influence across Southeast Asia and East Asia. Brought to China through Buddhist scriptures, the epic has influenced the Chinese art and literature. Bureau Report, DD India.
And with that, it's all that we have for you in this edition of DT India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DT India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on your screen and download now. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DT India. I'm Sakal Bhattan from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DT India News Hour.